Okay, so let's take a look at adding rational expressions. So rational expression, adding and subtracting rational expression is just like adding and subtracting rational numbers. When you add or subtract rational numbers, you want to get a common denominator. So for this one, the denominator is also, it's already 3. So you just keep that denominator and you add or subtract across. And so you get 6 over 3. You want to reduce it to 2. Okay, so here, again, we want common denominators, but they're not. So we want to create common denominators. We want the denominator that's the least. So we call that the LCD, the least common denominator, between 4 and 5. So what I do is I pick the largest number, and I count by that number until these go into it as well. So 5, 10, 4 doesn't go into it, 15, 4 still doesn't go into it, and then 20, 4 goes into it. So the least common denominator is 20. I want to make a 20 down here, so 5 times 4 will make 20. If I times the bottom by 4, I have to times the top by 4. And then this side, I have to do 4 times 5. And then top one also is 5 times 3. So 5 times 3, 5 times 4, 4 times 1, 5 times 4, and now I have the least common denominator. I'm going to keep that denominator and then just subtract across. And then I can't redo this, so this one is my answer. Okay, we can try it for the next one. This one has 3 rational numbers. I want a common denominator, so I'm going to choose 9. And then 9 is the largest. I'm going to count by 9s until 6 and 2 goes into it. So 9 plus 9, it gives me 18 next. And then 6 goes into 18, 2 goes into 18, so the least common denominator is 18. I need to have 18s appear down here, so 6 times 2 makes 18. 6 times 3 is 18, and then 9 times 2 makes 18, and then 2 times 9 makes 18. So multiply everything out. Oh, 18, this is 3. Okay, now we have the LCD, the least common denominator. We're going to put 18 there, and then we're just going to add, subtract across. So we add, subtract across, and we get 10 out of 18, and then we can reduce this. It looks like 2 goes into this 5 times, and then 2 goes into this one 9 times. Okay, 4, 16, and 2. 16 is the largest number, and it looks like 4 already goes into 16, and 2 goes into 16, so the least common denominator is 16. This one already has 16, I want to make a 16 here, so 4 times 4 makes 16, and then 2 times 8 makes 16, so 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 4 is 16, 1 16, and then 3 times 8 is 24, and then 2 times 8 is 16. Okay, so now I want to keep that denominator and add, subtract across, and we get 43 sixteenths. Okay, so this one is where we start to get it to look like a rational expression. And it's still the same. We have a common denominator, So we keep the denominator and we just subtract across. But here we can't have x be 0. Okay, here we don't have a common denominator, so we need the least common denominator between 2x and 5x. And so between 2 and 5, it looks like 10, and an x will just be an x. So I need to get a 10x down here. I need to multiply this by 2, and this one by 5. So 5 times 3, 5 times 2x, 2 times 11, 10 times, 2 times 5 is 10, and we have an x. So we got a common denominator. We keep that denominator. We're just going to add across. And then that will be our answer right here. Okay, so 7, we have 3 and x. So when you guys have something like that, the least common denominator ends up being just 3x. This one tells me it needs to be, it needs to have a 3. The least common denominator needs to have a 3, and this one says the least common denominator needs to have an x. So this one's missing an x, and this one's missing a 3. So I have 2 times x, 3x, and then 4 times 3, 3 times x, get to here. Now that they have a common denominator, I'll write it down here, and then we'll just add the numerator. Again, x cannot be 0 here, and x cannot be 0 here. Okay, so this one is a rational expression, but they have already the least common denominator, so all I have to do is keep that denominator and add or subtract across. We get 5x, and that is our answer. Here, there's a domain restriction, and x cannot be 5/3. Okay, so normally, if I was here, we would try to work these out, and then you guys would figure it out, but I'm not here, so I'm just going to tell you how to do these one here. Okay, so we have these two expressions, and so this one tells me the LCD needs to have an x minus 2 and an x plus 8. And so this one's missing the x plus 8, and this one's missing the x minus 2, x minus 2. So we want to multiply this one through. And now at the bottom, just keep it factor out. And then this one through. And in the bottom, also keep it factor out. Okay, now you keep the common denominator. And then you just add or subtract across. Okay, and then combine your like terms. And that's your answer. Okay, so we'll skip this one for now. Let's write the steps to adding and subtracting rational expressions. So the first thing I want you guys to do when you're adding and subtracting rational expression is to factor everything. Okay, once you're done factoring everything, I need you guys to list the restrictions. So restrictions like the domain restrictions we did yesterday. once you list the restrictions, I need you guys to create the least common denominator, and then just add or subtract across. So let's give that a try for this one. So first thing is factor everything. Already factor. This one we might try to factor out a -1. And then this one we're looking for two numbers that multiplied to be 3 and add to be 4. So that one there. Okay, so everything's factor. And then we need to list the restrictions. So the restrictions appeared in the denominator. And so in the denominator, this one could be factored. Yeah. Okay, so here, this one says x cannot be 1, x cannot be 3, and x cannot be 1. Okay, so this part's done. We need to create the LCD. So for this one, the LCD is, it needs to have a 2, it needs to have a x minus 1, it needs to have a x minus 3, and then it needs to have that, but we already have it. So this is my LCD. And I need to create an LCD down here and here. So this one's missing this one. So I would have to multiply it by x minus 3. And then this one's missing just the 2. So I'll times this by 2 times the top by 2. Okay, so we want to work everything out, multiply this one out. So there's a lot of multiplication that we have to do. And now you have the LCD down here. You have your 2, your x minus 3, your x minus 1. This one here, we have our 2, we have our x minus 3, x minus 1. And in the top, it looks like we'll have to multiply this one back in. So 2 times 2, and then times -1 is -4x, and then we have a -2 again, because that's 2 and then negative. Okay, now that we have the LCD, we will keep the LCD, and then just add or subtract across. Now this part's tricky because you have to keep it in parentheses. When you keep it in parentheses, it changes the signs of those. So it's actually plus 4x and plus 2. Okay, then you guys want to just add your like terms. So as far as the x goes, we have a -5 and a 4. So -x, and in the constants we have a -4, and in the bottom we have the LCD, and this ends up being our answer. Okay, let's try that again with this one here. So first thing is everything is factored, so we're good. Second thing is we need to list restrictions. X cannot be 0 and x cannot be 0. And then the LCD, it needs to have a 3. It needs to have an x squared. It needs to have a 4. And it needs to have an x, which it already has. So the LCD is 12x squared. So this one is missing the 4. So we're going to times it by 4. This one is, it has a 4x, so it's missing a 3x. So then we could keep the LCD 4 times 3, x squared. Actually, let's write it like this. And then here we'll just have 4 times 8, and then over here we'll have 15x, and then we'll keep the LCD. And then just add or subtract across. Okay, we'll take a look at this one. Okay, so already factor. So it's already factor. 2 restrictions, so x cannot be 3, and x cannot be -1. The LCD is x minus 3, and x plus 1. So this one's missing the x plus 1, and then this one's missing the x minus 3. Okay, then we want to multiply everything out. Multiply everything out. And then keep the denominator. And then just add or subtract across. Okay, now we get to combine all of these. Start with the greatest one. And then you can combine these here. And that ends up being your answer. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, so this one I need to factor everything. This part needs to be factored. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 24 and add to be 5. So I'm thinking 8 and 3. Okay, and then the restrictions are x cannot be -8, x cannot be 3, and x cannot be 3. Okay, then the LCD is that I need an x plus 8, I need an x minus 3, and then I already have the x minus 3, so that's my LCD. This one has the LCD, so I'm not going to multiply by anything. This one's missing the x plus 8. Okay, so this one's done. I'm just going to keep it like that. And then this one I'll have to multiply it out. Okay, now I have the common denominator. I'm going to keep that denominator. And we're just going to add or subtract across. So then we can combine those. But let's write this one and then combine those. And then keep the denominator factor out. So don't forget that with this there. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, we need to factor everything. So this one is the difference of squares. Our restrictions are x cannot be 3 and -3. And then the LCD, this one tells me it needs to have this one, and then this one is already here, so we're good. And this one is the LCD. This one's missing this one, so I have to times it by x plus 3. Okay, so this one we already have. This one we'll have to multiply it out. Okay, and then we're going to keep the denominator. And then just add or subtract. Now here, you're going to distribute the minus sign, and you get to here. Okay, so then your answer is x minus 18, and then you have your LCD down here. Like that. Okay, 2 more to go. Okay, so we need to factor everything. 2 numbers that multiply to be 2 and add to be 3. Here is 2 numbers that multiply to be 10 and add to be 7. Okay, and then our restrictions are x cannot be 2, x cannot be 1, x cannot be 2, and x cannot be 5. Okay, the LCD is x minus 2, x minus 1, x minus 2, and x minus 5. So this one's missing this one, so I need to multiply it by this one. And this one is missing this one. Okay, so let's write it out. Okay, so I just multiplied this, and then here's the LCD. Okay, over here. And then we have the LCD. And I'm just going to write in this order. This one, and this one. Okay, and then we're going to keep the LCD. And we're just going to add and subtract across. Okay, and when you do that, start off with this one. Then add all your x's together. Add your constants. And then keep your LCD factor out. Like that. Okay, last one. Okay, if you have this one, just put a 1 there. So they're all factor out. So it's already factor. The restrictions are x cannot be 0, x cannot be 0, and this one is no, this one doesn't tell you any restrictions. So that's the restrictions. And then we need the LCD. So this one says it needs an x, this one says it needs a 5x, but we have the x ready, so it just needs the 5. And then this one says it needs the 1. So the LCD is just 5x. So this one's missing a 5. This one has the LCD, and this one's missing 5x. Okay, so we're going to multiply. And then this one is already there. This one we're going to multiply. And then multiply. Okay, now we have the LCD. So 5x, 5x, we're going to do 10x minus 25 minus 4 minus 20x. And then we're just going to combine like terms. And write it over the LCD. So that will be our answer with this restriction. Okay, that's all. Start your homework in the packet.